Alright everyone, it's definitely a red letter day for the alt media because we see a little bit of further slippage and degradation within the legacy hackery side of the media. The defamatory bullshit artists, the con artists that have robbed people over time of reality and substituted a really, really weird, warped, fake reality in its place. And this Buzzfeed, Huffington Post, and then also Kirsten Powers rage quitting on CNN actually, I think came slightly before the others. It was very funny. So in her case, it's different. In her case, it's Covington related. She defamed the Covington boys, did the same thing that a bunch of other pundits did, and got called out for it. Got a bunch of angry Twitter DMs, emails, I'm sure, saying basically, fuck yourself. Because she's defaming a bunch of minors. She's not apologizing or retracting. She represents CNN, fake news. The same site that said reading WikiLeaks releases was illegal and stupid shit like that. She represents the face of the establishment, the lamestream. And she was very, very upset about the fact that people called her out. And it's like, some of the people calling you out, they're just saying, you are wrong. Oh my god, you're attacking the free press. So she rage quit and deleted the Twitter app. And it's like, okay, see you next week. It's like you're not going to be, in today's era, and this is why the alt media is rising quickly and why the legacy media sucks. The legacy media pundits and stuff, they want the advantages of that interconnected social media web because, they can't make a living without it. And honestly, at this point, you can't make it with just a standalone website. Unless you're InfoWars or something like that, or Gab, and you get deplatformed everywhere else anyway. But with these pundits, they're used to a different format. They're used to essentially, I will make the content, you will fucking suck it up and like it. And if you comment at all, I only want to see nice, happy comments. See, they're used to having like an email screener between them and everyone they associate with. They're used to having a guard walking with them between them and the crowd, and so they can shake the hands without getting the boos, so to speak. That's not the way social media works. Why do you think they want to sanitize the internet? They can't deal with it because they do stupid shit like, defame a group of dozens of young boys, and then they get called out. They get, like, really, really weird about it. So she rage quit, and it's like, good riddance, but, see you next week, because you're not going to be able to quit Twitter and still do your job, unfortunately for you. Learn how to code is the new meme. And then BuzzFeed and Huffington Post both downsizing. Now, this sort of comes in the wake of similar things happening over the course of the last year, especially at a lot of places. Like, remember, I think it was at the beginning of last year, like almost a year ago, I think, wasn't it the New York Times cut some of its editorial staff and people were all pissed. Salon, a few months after that, downsized. Like, they fired some people, I think, and they also moved to a different venue that cost less because they couldn't make their rent payments. They literally owed back rent, and they got kicked out, basically. They had to move to a cheaper, shittier, smaller location. Still a multi-million-dollar company, but one in decline. It's sort of like watching Sears. Watching the legacy media is like watching Sears 10 years ago. It's like, oh, yeah, don't worry, people. Just a little bit of a minor problem here. We're going to do some downsizing. That totally won't screw us even further. See, the problem is they keep downsizing. They're trying to make themselves more money efficient. There's no way to expand, though. There's no way to gobble up additional money without having to try to step on the toes of the alt media that's fast displacing them. So BuzzFeed cutting 15% of its staff, Huffington Post 10%, I think. It's fairly significant. And there was one person on Twitter just this morning, in fact, not even an hour ago, was trying to defend him as like, oh, well, they won a Pulitzer Prize last year. Last year, okay, wonderful. I'm sure that they wish it was last year, but it's not. It's 2019. Times have changed. It's the current year. BuzzFeed is no longer relevant. Like, who cares anyway if you get an award? Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize and proceeded to bomb tens of thousands of small children to death. So, yeah, you'll excuse me if I don't really care about the awards given by one group of rich people to another group of rich people. I don't really fucking care. But the thing is, I'm not downsizing 15%. No, the alt media is not downsizing. We're all expanding. Tens of thousands of people that do on-the-ground sort of independent journalism and analysis with nothing more than a webcam, and they have their podcasts and blogs. The intermeshed framework of an alternative to the corporate-style, boring, old-guard media has shot out of nowhere. We took him by surprise, and I'm just a small component of that. So I think he thought I was being, like, prideful or something. That was mentioned by someone. I'm like, no, I'm one person within the alt media. But my audience is swiftly growing. Theirs obviously isn't because they just had to downsize. There's a reason for that. It's like, downsize 15%. How can you even downsize when your whole gig is, hey, I've got a laptop and a webcam, I am one person? not a corporate brand, not a group of people, don't need a staffer. And again, like with Kirsten Powers, as I said, the problem is there's a reliance in the old guard style of the media on having a bunch of people to do simple things that could be done by one person. They're spoiled. That pundit doesn't also want to have to clean their desk. They want a janitor to clean their desk. They don't also want to have to handle the electrical payments. There's an accountant for the company that handles that. It's a corporate sort of style structure. It's inefficient. It doesn't work, especially with cable. Cable's basically dead in the water. They're all in decline. The biggest success that a cable firm can have right now is that it cannibalizes the audience of another cable firm in a slowly shrinking total population of cable viewers. That's not actually a victory. Long term, you still get wiped out of existence. You're going to see consolidation. Some of these firms will go belly up and get gobbled up by the others, and it will compact more and more. It'll become more centralized, less dynamic and competitive, and therefore even more boring than it already is, and it'll snuff itself out. Then you have newsprint. It's completely vestigial. Don't even talk about it. It's not worth bothering. So Kirsten Powers rage quitting. This is sort of the symbol of, punditry. These old guard pundits from the lamestream fake news networks, they want to be able to get all the benefits of interacting with people without any of the drawbacks. It's like I've been a content creator now for over a decade. I'm used to getting angry comments. I'm used to getting angry messages on various platforms. I'm used to people trying to troll me. So what? I don't care because, to begin with, it's just like I'm a private individual. I'm sort of hip to that lingo. But they're not. They're used to a totally different farce. She's used to going on TV, saying what she wants to say. She'll get some email responses. Her staff will weed through them and give her some of the nice ones. That's basically what happens with these people. Look at a great example. Bill O'Reilly gets fired from Fox, 3 years ago now, I think. He's fired from Fox for alleged sexual improprieties. Of course, they settle out, so it's still, technically, it's alleged. Improprietous situations, often involving odd phone calls. You can look it up. Look up the one with Howard Stern laughing about that's actually quite funny. Go into some of these weird stories. But he gets fired. He starts a podcast. Not quite as prestigious as it was before. He has difficulty with it. It took him like a whole year to sort of get into step. And he still has a paywall up, so it's like, most people that ever pay attention to him aren't going to pay him. They're just going to see little clips of it that are on YouTube or whatever. I think he has a YouTube channel that's halfway decent. And then just think, he made the transition better than most, and that's after getting canned. It'd be fun. These Huffington Post and Buzzfeed people are like, oh, please hire me. And I made a joke. I'm like, hey, I'll give you $500 and I'll pay for your travel here. We're going to go out to a local parking lot, and I'm going to make you chew up and swallow some old cigarette butts that are lying on the ground. And I'm going to film you, like, vomiting and crying, and I'm going to berate you the whole time. And this will be very funny, and I'm going to put it online. The reason I would be willing to pay them that is because I'd make a lot more money back in terms of attention. So yeah, let's have a little fun at the pundits' expense. Because, these people, they're eating their words already. What's the difference between their shitty words and a cigarette butt? Not really much. They're both addictive as well. A lot of people were addicted to TV back before the internet was commonplace. Now it's like they're addicted to the internet, but at least here you can make content too. And there's a lot more to pick and choose from. It's not, hey, here are 100 channels or 200 channels run by the same 5 fucking companies, which is what cable boils down to. Oh, and now you've got some on-demand services, but that's still basically, like, let's face it, 3 or 4 different firms. So let's say that you've got a dozen total hubs of creation on cable, and a few hundred major newspapers, as far as what you would generally have to choose from. That's what you get there. What do you get on YouTube alone? Just one website out of all of them. There are millions of websites with collectively like 1 billion content creators. That's wonderful. And some people have more, of an audience than others, but it's a highly competitive place, as opposed to cable that's not competitive. The only thing to compete with is other dying firms, and who cares about Buzzfeed? They won a Pulitzer. Screw them. Who fucking cares, dude? Yes, and in 10 years, will they have the Pulitzer because will they still exist? Like, will BuzzFeed still be there? Maybe they go belly up, they get bought out. Maybe Hulk Hogan buys them up, turns it into a wrestling site or something. It's called Buzzfeed. It's where they take dudes and they shave their beards and then give them sandwiches. That's about all. Peace out.